Hey, and welcome to episode 9 of the Paid Insights podcast, where we analyze and deconstruct other companies' ad campaigns so you can learn what to do and what not to do for your business. Hey, before we jump into things, I just want to let you know that this episode is unofficially sponsored by Blueberry Podcast Hosting. And it's actually the podcast host I use, and they're not mentioned in the episode because we didn't see any ads for them. But they're also the creator of the PowerPress WordPress plugin, which is basically the go-to podcasting plugin for WordPress. And they a couple things. They offer unlimited download bandwidth, so if you get featured on the top of iTunes, you don't have to worry about a giant bill the next month. They have an amazing podcast player for your website. You can actually see it at my podcast page or show notes pages. Their feeds are optimized for iTunes and any other podcast directory. And actually, funny story, when I first set up the podcast through Blueberry, I accidentally created 2 different feeds on accident. I did 2 different accounts somehow. This was all my fault, I guess, but they have awesome service. So I emailed them, and within a few hours they had kind of integrated or deleted one of those, and no questions asked. So awesome service, and they have great statistics as well. So it shows you downloads by day, by month, by country, by platform, tons of stuff. So that's actually a service that costs $5 a month separately, and it's included when you get hosting. And so I have got you a free month if you want to start a podcast. Just go to paidinsights.com/BLUBRRY or enter the promo code PAIDINSIGHTS at checkout. Again, that's paidinsights.com/blueberry. Hey, and welcome back to the Paid Insights podcast. So today we are going to look at the keyword podcast hosting. And if you're not familiar, what this is when you create a podcast, you need a place to host all your audio files. You don't want to put them on your website server, because when you have hundreds or thousands of people downloading your shows, it'll make your entire website basically come to a crawl or even crash. So definitely don't go that route. You'll need to get a podcast host. So that's what this keyword is for. And maybe a common misconception, but even sites like iTunes, they don't actually host the podcast. They basically take an RSS feed of your podcast, and you can get that from your website through a plugin or through one of these podcast hosts that we're going to look at. And then you'd submit that to iTunes, and then they will show the shows that are hosted elsewhere, like these hosting sites we're going to look at. So now that we got that cleared up, we'll run through the top 4 ads that showed up when I searched for podcast hosting. The first one is Buzzsprout, and the title says Buzzsprout podcast hosting, the #1 way to start a podcast. So that's a good start. It seems great for someone just looking to get started, for a beginner. It says the best way to host, promote, and track your podcast, free for 90 days. I like the free for 90 days part, because it kind of lowers your resistance. You know, if you're not sure if you're going to keep it going, a lot of people 90 days is a good point where you decide if you're going to keep it going or if you're not, and you can decide if you want to continue paying. The call-out extensions they've included are no strings attached, all-in-one podcast tool, helpful support, easy to use, and no contracts. So I like that. No contracts, no strings attached. Make it easy for you to sign up and not worry about being stuck with them for a year, for instance. And then they also have a structured snippet extension that says services, which are start a podcast, podcast hosting, podcast marketing tools, podcast statistics, and it continues kind of off the screen. And they also have some site links. So there's sermon podcasting for a church. there's sign up for free, help, and blog. So I like that they've included sign up for free. Sermon podcasting feels a little out of place in this situation, but it could work if you're a church looking for a podcast host. That would call out to you. Help and blog feel a little weak as far as site links, but they're using them and it makes the ad larger. So overall, it's good to have them. I would probably think of maybe some other similar landing pages that they could create to use as site links to replace help and blog. Next is podbean.com, and it says free podcast hosting. So free right away. And it says start your own podcast in 3 easy steps. So I like that it's uses a number, which kind of stands out. Kind of like the previous, they use the number 1, but that 3 easy steps really stands out and makes it easy to approach, I feel. And it says everything you need is free. It says unlimited podcasting, 24/7 customer support, try it free, and 120,000 plus podcasts started. So that's a little social proof to show that they've, they can handle a lot of podcasts and they've been around a while. They also have site links that say plans and pricing, podcasting features, podcast mobile app, and enterprise solutions. So I kind of like those because pricing is a popular thing people want to know. Not everything is free. Features is nice. People want to know that. The mobile app might be for some people, and then enterprise solutions allows them to sort of gently upsell if you're someone looking for kind of a more robust solution. And next we have Zencast.fm. Their headline says publish your own podcast, Zencast podcast hosting. The call-out extensions say all-in-one podcast platform, no upload limits, publish anywhere, and free trial. So it's good to see that they included trial in there. And the types is a structured snippet. It says create a podcast, publish to iTunes, embed on your blog, build your own website. I like types is kind of a weird word. I like how Buzzsprout uses services, but that's just a minor thing. And in this case, there's no site links showing for them. They also in their ad URL it says free trial, so it's driving you right to a free trial. I'm guessing. And then lastly, we have Spreaker.com, and it says upload your podcast, get heard today. And it says get heard by millions, leveraging the best platform for podcast hosts. So I think this is probably the weakest ad in this case. I mean, the call to action is upload your podcast right in the headline. So they're even in the display URL, it says /podcast/upload. So they're trying to get you to kind of take that action right away, it sounds like. But otherwise, they don't really talk about their features or benefits anywhere in the ad. So we'll take a look at the landing pages and see how these align and see how they do on their website once you click over. Hey, before we get to the landing pages, just a quick reminder that you can find the show notes for this episode at paidinsights.com/9. That's the number 9. Again, it's paidinsights.com/9. All right, now on to the landing pages. So the first landing page is Buzzsprout, and their ad actually takes you to the homepage for their website, buzzsprout.com. And the headline says, everything you need to podcast. Subheadline is the easiest way to host, promote, and track your podcast. So I like that. It says, everything's included. It's easy. And the button is get started. And one thing I want to point out is the button is a different color than kind of the rest of their color scheme. The main color scheme is sort of a green color. And the button is a kind of a bright blue. So that really stands out. And I actually like to see that. If you use you should use a button color that's not kind of your dominant or even secondary color on your website. It should be something else so it stands out. And actually below the button, it says free podcast hosting available, no credit card required, which is great to see. That really lowers resistance so people can, get in and play around with it without worrying that they're going to be charged for something. So as you scroll down, the first thing you see is a video, and it's just a short kind of explainer video on how to get started, and basically shows you how easy it is. So the video is about 2 minutes, but there's no call out or call to action around the video that says something like, watch this quick 2-minute video to see how easy it is to use, or something along those lines. I think would help if they really want to have people watch that video, because just by itself, you don't know what you're getting into. You can't tell how long it is. So just a kind of a minor tip: you should have some sort of call to action around your video, letting people know what they're getting into. But as we scroll down, it says podcast hosting for people, not just experts. So this kind of aligns with the ad showing that they're for beginners and people just getting started. They really said it's easy to get started there, and this kind of continues that theme. It says Buzzsprout makes it easy for podcasters at every level to upload, share, and track a show without any technical training. Great to see. And they have a little 3-step. It says upload your episode, and then basically click play is their little process. They have a few testimonials down below, and then it says easily share on every platform. Shows Facebook, Twitter, iTunes, WordPress. Then as you continue down the page, it says play-by-play stats. Shows that you can see, individual stats for episodes or average plays, where people were in the world. And then at the bottom, there is another button that says start a podcast, free for 90 days. I love to see the button at the bottom. So as if you get all the way down to this point and you are ready to start, they make it really easy to do. So I'm a big fan of kind of those call to action buttons at the bottom as well as the top. Let's go on to Podbean. And so you land on a page, has full navigation. The headline just says podcasting, which is pretty weak. And this is Podbean is an easy and powerful way to start podcasting. So the subheadline would be better as the main headline, and I think they could do a better job kind of calling out their benefits there. Also, the hero image is a person looking at you, which is a little I don't know. I don't know if I'd use the word creepy, but it's just kind of overwhelming. And there's a giant mixer behind him, so it almost looks. I'm almost overwhelmed. Like you see this really complicated sound mixer in the back, and you think, man, this is going to be too difficult. So that's my initial impression. The button says get started, and there's a little thing that says it's free next to it. So I think that's a good aspect here and it stands out is the button. And then as you scroll, it says everything you need to create, manage, and promote your podcast. Easy uploading and publishing tools, stunning templates. I'm not sure what that's for. Custom domains, social and promotional tools, embeddable podcast player. So they really highlight some of their features there, which is nice. And then as you continue, there's a kind of another call to action box. There's all-in-one podcasting solution. So actually, this headline would be better up at the top instead of just podcasting. And with Podbean, you can create professional podcasts in minutes. So yeah, I think this whole little section or copy would be better right up at the top. And there's this little slider showing you their platform. And then there's some more kind of features highlighted down below. And then they have another get started button. So it's good to see they have a lot of calls to action to get you in. Unlimited bandwidth and storage for a flat rate. So that's cool to see. Stats, branding, sharing, kind of standard features we'll probably see with most of them. And then they also talk about monetization opportunities, so making money from your podcast, advertising, premium content, and crowdfunding appear to be included. And then they also have a iPhone and Android app. Not really sure how that ties in or how that works, but again, another get started call to action button there, and then it says share your voice with the world, start your own podcast in a few clicks. I like that kind of simple to get started. And then it says it's free again here at the bottom, and it shows 140,000 plus podcasters. So it shows some stats for over 4 million downloads through their platform, which is cool. And then at the bottom here, there's a kind of a full footer. So I feel that's a negative. It allows you to easily click away and view all their different pages. So I'm not sure they need that on the PPC landing page. I think it's good for the rest of the website, but when you're driving traffic to a site, you want to kind of keep these options to get away from the page minimal and just allow people to do the main action you want. Let's take a look at the next one, Zencast.fm. This looks like a pretty stripped down page. You actually go to zencast.fm/free-trial, and it says podcasting made easy. Zencast is everything you need to host, publish, and track your own podcast. The only button up at the top is Get Started. And then the call to action sort of front and center is enter your email, and then the button is create your podcast. So that makes it seem really easy, and I'm not going to go through the process, but I like that they give you that option right away. They don't talk about pricing anywhere though, so you don't really know what you're getting into as far as that aspect. I like the previous ones that are mentioned. It's free or free for 90 days. Kind of lower that resistance, and you're not unsure of what's going to happen next. But continuing on the page, there's stop worrying and start recording. Spend time on what matters, your show. We will take care of the rest. There's actually kind of a cool little graphic here. It says the old way versus the new way. And the old way shows your podcast and has a bunch of kind of curvy arrows going to your website, hosting, iTunes, analytics, and all this kind of confusing stuff, which, having launched a podcast, I agree it can be very confusing when you get started. And it says the new way, U to a Z for Zencast, and then your audience. So they show it's dead simple, basically. I love that aspect. And then right below that, it says Zencast makes podcasting easy. You don't need any technical skills. That's similar to the first landing page that we saw. So I think that's a kind of a common barrier to entry or common worry that people have. So great to see people call that out right away. They say provide some details about your podcast, add an episode, and you're ready to broadcast. Automatically publish to iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and any other directory. So they make it at least sound really easy to use. And as you continue, there's a bunch of features here. Fast and unlimited hosting, distributed across a global content delivery network. Monitor reviews and ratings. Share your audience, import your show with one click. So kind of highlight some of their features here. And then one thing I wanted to kind of highlight here is that it says monitor reviews and ratings section. It says stay on top of your audience's feedback. Be notified when your podcast receives a rating or review in over 150 local iTunes stores. So the way iTunes works is they have a different version basically in every country. So if I'm in the US and someone leaves a review in the US, I will see it. But if someone in Australia or the UK leaves a review, I won't be able to see that unless I log in or change my location settings in iTunes. So it's kind of a weird system. So it's great to see that they give you that ability. Most people don't realize how that works, so they might want to do a little better job explaining how that's important or why that is even a thing. I actually use a third-party service with a really cool guy. The company is Pod Hero. Website's podhero.io if you want to check it out. But it's kind of an all-in-one marketing and review monitoring platform. Even the little widget you see on paidinsights.com that says leave a review, that's through Pod Hero. So just a quick plug to him and his platform there. But let's continue down the page. At the bottom it says start your 14-day free trial today. So there's a kind of a how long you're going to get. It still doesn't talk about pricing anywhere. And I know I said before you don't want to have people leave the page, but I feel like that's sort of a big barrier here is if you want to know how much it's going to cost and they just want to get you right into the trial. So while it might work to get people in, I'm curious how well they convert free trial to paid subscribers without giving that information up front. So something I would probably test adding in here. They would have to sort of track it through the entire funnel, see how that works. But let's go to the last landing page, Spreaker. No, there's no navigation at the top. It says Pro Podcasting Made Easy. So right away it says Pro Podcasting, which makes it sound like it's more for that enterprise level. It is a complete solution to managing your podcast. Try it. Is the button right at the top. And as we continue, there's just a kind of screenshots of the device on mobile and desktop, basically showing it's responsive. And then there are 3 features they highlight up, right away is multiple shows per account is the first one. And I feel like that's something that would only apply to kind of larger companies or, studios. So if I was just a single podcaster, that would probably turn me off. It says distribution far and wide and live streaming option. So go live from wherever you are and see your podcast immediately published, which is kind of cool. And let's continue. It says try it again is their button. They don't talk about pricing anywhere yet. It says a powerful content management system. So they use some language that almost feels confusing. It says manage every aspect of your podcast from one place, from its metadata to its artwork. So they use kind of technical terms, which if you don't, if you're just trying to get started, this would definitely turn you off. Professional analytics, so they use that professional word again. So it really feels like they're going for that larger podcaster. And then at the bottom it says build your podcast brand. So while maybe not a bad page for that more serious level, they don't mention that in the ad at all, that they're going for that market. So I would probably try to call that out if I were them in the ad to dissuade clicks if they don't want the smaller entry-level podcaster. Maybe they should say for professionals, or try to give a minimum, show a price or something to keep those people from clicking. That's just something I would try if I were them. But is it for the 4 landing pages for podcast hosting. I hope that was useful to you, and keep an eye out for the next episode. One last thing, if you are enjoying these podcast episodes, I would greatly appreciate it if you would leave a rating and review on iTunes. And I created a link to easily get over to the iTunes page. It's paidinsights.com/iTunes. Simple as that. Hop over there, click 5 stars, 1 star, whatever you want, leave a review, and we'll see you soon. Later.